Hi there, welcome to my views and news. Is another war looming in the Horn of Africa? Eritrean government uh, shared its views about the likelihood of a new conflict in the Horn of Africa. The statement from an Eritrean ministry came yesterday. Eritrea has been involved in uh, different countries of this region militarily. We know that Eritrea trained militias have joined Sudanese civil war. Eritrea trained soldiers are fighting in Somalia. Eritrea trained Fano fighters are fighting against the Ethiopian military. Eritrea trained Amhara special force to fight against TPLF. Later, Amhara foreign fighters took up arms against the federal government and regional government. So Eritrea knows the region in and out. So what is Eritrean government's position about the current security situation in the Horn of Africa? Just an empty bravado, hollow threats of war, or is there some real danger of the region plunging into a war? Well, the Ministry of Information of Eritrea issued a statement yesterday. The statement came on the 4th of November. It was about war in Ethiopia, which began on the 4th of November 2020, when federal government and Tigray forces were involved in a conflict. That was the day one, you can say, though there was definitely events which led to the start of the conflict. Ethiopian federal government blames TPLF for starting the war by launching an attack on Northern Command. TPLF claims that it was Ethiopian and Eritrean leaders who planned this war. Leaving this aside, Eritrea says that on the 4th of November 2020, TPLF waged a war of insurrection. And that war plunged the region into a security crisis. The region was plunged into crisis and a war. Eritrea always blames TPLF for the start of war in northern Ethiopia. TPLF denies. We're not endorsing what the Minister of Information of Eritrea is saying. We're just sharing the statement with you, almost quote unquote. The Minister of Information says that the war of insurrection in Ethiopia was initiated by TPLF. And for 4 years almost, for 2 years rather, the war went on. Now, what is happening now? The Minister of Information Eritrea says that hawks, war hawks, and conflict entrepreneurs are trying to create another conflict. Who is this conflict entrepreneur and war hawk? Is Eritrea talking about external players, outsiders, foreign countries? Eritrea is very critical of EU, US, we know. It always accuses Americans and Westerners for inciting conflicts in Africa, in the Horn of Africa. This time, no mention of West or US. Though generally, when Eritrea mentions the words conflict entrepreneurs and war hawks, it implies Westerners, Americans. This time, there is no reference to Westerners or Americans. So now conflict entrepreneurs and warhawks are trying to wage another war. They want the region to be plunged into another crisis. What are they saying? What is the narrative of these war hawks? What is their position? What are they doing? I think the next part of the statement is very meaningful. It just tells what Eritrea is talking about. These war hawks and entrepreneurs are distorting facts. They are trying to revise facts and history, almost quote unquote. This is what Eritrean government said. Who is twisting facts and trying to revive, change history? Obviously, Eritrean government mentioned Ethiopia without naming it. Eritrean government mentioned PM Abiy without naming it. PM Abiy last year took a position about access to Red Sea, about alleged Ethiopian natural rights to gain access to sea, which Eritrea denies, Somalia denies, Djibouti denies. Back then, too, the same terms were used by Eritrean government officials, that some players in the Horn of Africa trying to write new history. They want to change borders. They have revisionist agendas. It's almost same language is used in this statement too. Basically, Minister of Information of Eritrea is saying that now Ethiopia is waging a conflict. It is inciting a conflict in the Horn of Africa. In the Horn of Africa means that more than one country is involved. Obviously, Ethiopia involved, Somalia involved. Somaliland, not a country, it's involved as well. Eritrea could be drawn as well. Lastly, the Eritrean government says that, the Minister of Eritrea says that the region deserves a respite from conflicts. Critics of Eritrea accuse Eritrea of promoting conflicts in the Horn of Africa, that Eritrea intervenes in conflicts directly or indirectly. Eritrea is accusing others of inciting a new conflict in the Horn of Africa, which could envelop the entire region. I think Eritrea is warning the world. It is warning African countries. It is warning international community that Ethiopia is creating a conflict which could lead to a regional war in the Horn of Africa. Ethiopia is not sitting idle either, by the way. I have been updating you about the meetings of Eritrean opposition groups on Ethiopian soil. I did a video this morning. I told you about the visit of Brigade Nehamido group. The Brigade Nehamido UK chapter sent a delegation to Ethiopia recently, and at the assembly of the Brigade Nehamido held this week in Birmingham, Britain, the head of delegation submitted his report to the Brigade Nehamido General Assembly, General Congress there. So both sides are taking some very extreme positions. Dialogue is needed. The two countries are gradually getting out of touch, out of communication. I'm not saying that a war is looming. I'm not saying that Ethiopia-Eritrea war is on the cards. I don't say that. This is not my official. This is not my position. I always say that no likelihood of Ethiopia-Eritrea war. Ethiopia-Somalia conflict is serious. We cannot say tomorrow a war can break out. But Ethiopia-Somalia conflict is more serious than Ethiopia-Eritrea tension, I believe. Thank you for watching.